Hello everybody, welcome back to the United Stand. Manchester United 2, Crystal Palace 1. Now I speak for myself, I don't know about my panellists here, but I've never been so stressed over a game of football in my life. But 3 points is 3 points. Casemiro, 3-game ban, straight red card. It's not what you want to see, but whether that can be possibly appealed. I'm yet to see a proper full version of it back to give a proper opinion, but that's what these guys are here for, to help me out on that. But lots to talk about. Sabitzer gets his debut. Also, Martial not involved in the squad once again. Loads and loads to go into. But guys, welcome into the show. Welcome, welcome. Ricky.
Yeah.
Casemiro, red card, misses 3 games. I believe it doesn't. He can still play the Barcelona game, but that means obviously the Leeds doubleheader and the Leicester game. I think he's going to be a huge miss.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the red card? Do you think it was? Do you think it was a red? Admittedly, I hadn't a clue what was going on.
Well, I was at the game, and obviously nearly every player on the pitch was involved. There was a big melee call it immediately off the touchline, so there was that much going on. It was difficult to say. So I didn't see what he did whatsoever. I've seen a photograph of it since, but just a still photograph, and it doesn't look very good. He's got, is it Hughes, I think, round the neck with 2 hands. It doesn't look very good.
Like the Undertaker.
Yeah, so I don't think...
the picture makes it look a hell of a lot worse.
It might do, but I'll be surprised if they can appeal it. But literally live at the game, by the way, I said to a lad that I was sat with, I just said, I can't see there not being a red card here. I mean, there's that many of them involved. Somebody's got to do something wrong, you know what I mean? And it could have been for either side, but obviously he came back with the red card. I was shocked when it was Casemiro, but there you go.
Because from where I was sitting, I mean, one thing I will point out is I like the fact that everyone did jump on it and was around. Like that wasn't really something you would see. It would only be like maybe 1 or 2 that would defend Anthony or something like that. But everyone was on it straight away, which was, I mean, shows how together everyone is. But Kev, I mean, Casemiro is obviously going to be a huge miss. Whether it does get overturned or not, as Ricky says, it probably won't. Straight reds, you know, especially when he's gone to VAR as well. It's not a spur of the moment thing. But what's your thoughts? How big of a miss is he going to be?
Casemiro is going to be a huge miss. I always call him the general in that midfield. Yes, thank God we brought Sabitzer in. You know, at least we've got a player there that we can kind of bring in. It's not like for like. It's not ideal. The Leeds doubleheader will be huge, but I think the referee today, I just think it's a disgraceful decision. It really took the shine off the game. You know, we've all come here, we're buzzing because we've won 2-1 and we managed to see the game out at the end. But I think it's a dreadful decision. Is it Mariner, was it, the referee?
I think so. Yeah. I think it was, yes.
Oh, absolute knobhead. I'm sorry, I'm throwing it out there. Yeah. If Schluck can get away with that, with barging Anthony off the pitch, but yet Casemiro gets sent off for violent conduct. He's holding Hughes. Now, don't get me wrong, not the best place to hold him round the neck. As you see the pictures, it doesn't look that great, but Hughes never reacts to that. He's not going at Casemiro and saying, you know, you're threatening me, you put me in a threatening position, or... I don't know. I think it's an absolute shocking decision. A three-game ban, violent conduct. It's not violent conduct.
The one positive thing is now Sabitzer has to play, pretty much, doesn't he? With obviously Van der Beek out, Scott McTominay out, and Casemiro now, obviously with the ban. Sabitzer has to play. Obviously, he made his debut today. Faz, what did you... I mean, I thought he did well when he came on. He did what he needed to do, but I don't think it was the best place to make your debut in terms of you don't really get the chance to show what you're about and that. But what did you make of his debut today?
Yeah, I think he showed what he can bring straight away when he comes on the pitch. People start cheering because he starts smashing into Palace players. You see, he's that aggressiveness that he doesn't need to wait to see what the player does. He goes straight in. Even the pass that he played to Marcus Rashford and the ref called a foul, which was absolutely absurd. It doesn't make sense to me anyways. But he could have potentially had an assist as well. I saw him follow Eze around the pitch really well. His awareness of just being on the pitch around this squad was very good for the first time coming in, considering there's a player of the team who's got a red card. What I will think now is how Ten Hag will set out his formation, having to play Sabitzer maybe deeper and Fred maybe a little bit in the 8 position, because ideally I would have liked Casemiro to be in the 6 and Sabitzer being in the 8, but that's something that Ten Hag is paid to decide. But I still think, in all honesty, I think Sabitzer, just as a player overall, he's good enough to see out games like Leeds. He should be. we have the Leicester game, possibly that Casemiro misses as well. I don't know what's going to happen with the appeal, but I feel like we should still be able to see the game. I think out of those 3 games, 1 of them are away. The rest are home.
We play Leeds away on the weekend. Yeah.
And I think we should still be okay. It's the Leeds away that I'll be a bit little concerned about, because our away hasn't been the best, has it?
Ten Hag was prompted into bringing Sabitzer on today. I think that the Casemiro sending off changes the game totally, and then all of a sudden you realise Casemiro isn't going to be there for the next 3 games. You have to bring him on, don't you? It's at Old Trafford. At least it's in front of the home fans. They'll be behind him, and you have to get him in there, because really, it's all about getting him up to speed now. Get him in there, get to know his teammates, the way the team plays.
That's it. Mark with the super chat here, who's just been a member for 18 months. Right before Casemiro's footage, IU whacks Fred in the throat and holds him just as Casemiro does. Total disgrace from VAR and the refs today. Yeah, we'll touch a little bit on what we thought about the refereeing decisions in a minute, but we'll stick to Sabitzer. But Ricky, do you think, I mean, he obviously has to play, but does the system need to change now? Because, I mean, Casemiro is so vital to obviously how positively he's impacted us pretty much. Do you think the system has to change with him going out and Sabitzer going in, or is it not necessarily a like-for-like swap, because he's obviously not going to do what Casemiro does, but do you think he can be more than enough, or do more than enough to warrant, keeping his place in midfield?
I certainly think he can play that role. There's different ways of playing that role. And if you look at Casemiro and compare him to, say, Michael Carrick, they've both got great passing range, but Carrick didn't used to smash into people and make loads of tackles. It was about positional sense and, being smart and knowing where to be. And I think Sabitzer, I'm not seeing enough of him yet, because I've seen him play, obviously, and I've liked him in the past, but you don't really, I've said this loads of times on here, you don't really concentrate on these players until they're playing for your team. So when I've watched him play 2 or 3 games for our team, I'll say, be able to give a great idea of what I think of him, but I certainly think that he's a smart enough player to play that role, although he'd probably play it a little bit more like Michael Carrick, I think. I think he's an intelligent lad and a good footballer and a good passer of the ball.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of people in the chat saying that Man United should be appealing the red card, 100%. I don't know, I don't actually know what the decision-making is in terms of appealing for... obviously, you can appeal kind of anything, can't you? But there's no point appealing it if you don't think...
It's the fact that it's gone to VAR now, that they will back the referee. Even if the decision isn't correct, which I don't think it was, and I'm sure a lot of United fans will think the same, there's not a chance, because you go against that and say, actually, it wasn't sending off. It's putting pressure on the referee. They're almost admitting the referee has made a mistake. How do you make a mistake when you've got VAR? And this is the thing we are tearing our hair out and going absolutely crazy about, the inconsistency of VAR. It's there to be used properly. Yeah, it might take a couple of minutes out of the game, but as long as you get the right decision, that's what it was brought in for. And at the minute, it's just so inconsistent. Now we get robbed of Casemiro for 3 games. 3 games.
I'd like to be able to see, obviously that the game wasn't televised, but I'd like to be able to see on the highlights back what the VAR was showing as well, to be able to know then what the referee would have seen upon going back and looking at the screen. It's that same
clip of Casemiro basically holding Hughes back. He's holding him off.
Do you not think context needs to come into this, in the sense of and then looking at other, as one of the people in the chat said, what I think it was IU had Fred round the throat. Then if you're gonna go by one standard, then anyone who's got anyone in that position needs to be another red card.
That's where it's inconsistent, and this is where it drives you crazy as a football fan in general. All you have to look at is the reaction from Hughes. There isn't a reaction, even when he's being held off. You wouldn't even get thrown out of a pub for doing that to someone. If a fight kicked off and you were holding somebody back, restraining somebody that's trying to go for somebody else, the bouncer's not going to come over and say, you out.
You'd be strangling
It's almost like the peacemaker in the middle of it. He's trying not to, this situation sort of flares up. But should Schlupp have been on the pitch? Should he have been able to, score that goal?
Everyone forgets about the tackle, don't they? The tackle, trying to think back to it now, was it actually a foul in the sense of he fouled him off the pitch, or did he push him off the pitch? I can't even remember looking back now.
He knew exactly what he was doing. It was snide.
He gave him something afterwards as well. He had a little chat to him and said...
He pushed him and then he walked towards him as well.
Yeah, that's probably what provokes Anthony.
Yeah, of course.
And you know the drop-off at Old Trafford, the way it drops off and then you've got that brickwork. He knew what he was doing there.
The squad, the team, is really, really tight right now. Everybody is fighting and playing for everyone. That's what you saw. The Favela brothers came out and said, you touch one of us, you touch all of us. That's what happens. And Man United players reacted like I would want my players to react. I have no grudge or anything at all. The appeal, Ten Hag never really comes out and says anything bad about referees. He says, it's down to us. We take responsibility. We kill games off. The refs in the Premier League do a good job. He says that. So I don't even see the club appealing it, in all honesty, based on that. He doesn't like to get into those type of headaches. He will take this and probably speak to Casemiro, said, you know, boys, we need to calm down, avoid these type of situations, and then just go off there. He's got Sabitzer, he's got Fred. Hopefully McTominay can come back soon enough, and we'll see from there.
And you can't criticise referees. What's all that about? I think David De Gea's tweeted out after the game today a picture of Mourinho, or that saying of,
if I speak, I'm in big trouble.
Exactly. So why not? We criticise players. Managers can criticise players, say they weren't good enough, whatever. Why should it be any different for a referee? You should be able to come out and say that was pathetic today.
But what changes? Nothing changes. VAR, we can be
that's
protected.
That's the thing, isn't it? Referees are so highly protected, and there's a lot of people in the game who want their referees to have interviews after the game, isn't there? Players have interviews, they explain their thoughts on the game and stuff, and it's usually obviously the captains and that. But why can't the referee come out and say, I gave this decision because of this, upon seeing that,
NBA.
I mean,
NFL.
there's loads of examples in which you can kind of go into. I'm sure they've obviously thought about it and whether it's something that they possibly bring in the future. I'm not sure. I don't know if then it opens up more the possibility of more referees getting absolute pelters. I'm not sure, because then, different people have different opinions on tackles and everything gets taken differently. But SK says here, I've called down. We have options of Sabitzer and Lindelof, etc. The VAR slows the clip down and stop with his hand on his collar. It's bollocks. Well said, my friend. But I mean, I guess Ten Hag did say about the possibility of Lindelof possibly being converted into this number 6 role, whether there's any truth in that or whether he actually is going to do that now. I'm sure it takes a lot longer than just kind of putting him in there for 20 minutes and going, yeah, you're my new number 6, and now Casemiro's. But what would you make of Lindelof going in and playing like a holding midfield role? Do you think he could possibly do that? I think personally he has the passing ability for it. He's got pretty good passing distribution from the back, but do you think he's good enough to possibly play in that holding midfield role, Ricky?
Lindelof, I think he would be, yeah. He's got great passing range, he's got a good touch on the ball, he's an intelligent player. Again, he'd play it in a similar role as I just spoke about. He's intelligent.
Less physical.
Yeah, his positional sense is good, and I don't think, and you don't want a central defensive midfield player who goes running all over the field either. Yeah. And I think he'd stay just in front of the back four and keep it simple and pass it simple. And obviously he knows how to tackle if there's a tackle there. He's played centre half all his life. I think Lindelof would do the job perfectly.
He's disciplined as well, isn't he, Lindelof?
Yeah, I think he'd be perfectly fine there. So he has got a couple of options, but obviously Lindelof's not a regular midfield player. I think I'd probably get pelters for this. I think if McTominay was fit, I'm not saying he's a better player than Lindelof, I'm not saying he's a better player than Sabitzer, but he's played there plenty of times for us. I think if McTominay was fit, and I don't know what his injury is.
Neither.
No, it seems to be, it was a mysterious one, wasn't it?
Unwell.
So he might be fit. I would imagine with Casemiro out, I would imagine if he was fit, McTominay would be his next choice for now, until Sabitzer gets some game time for the club. And then if McTominay's not fit, I'd probably go with Sabitzer, as he is a regular midfield player, and then Lindelof third choice.
At least it's nice that we do have options. Whatever you think of those options, whether you think they're good enough or not. Do you agree with Lindelof playing in that midfield?
No.
You were and ahhing, no?
No, I don't agree. He backs off too much. And also, on top of that, you have to be able to cut out passing lanes if you're playing in that deeper role, because your job is to protect your centre-backs. And I think Lindelof, as much as he has decent football IQ, he just about passes my criteria for being our rotational centre-back. To play and hold that central defensive midfield down where you almost have to at times babysit your 8. Because Fred, sometimes you saw today, second half, what happened. He gave away the ball numerous times, but when Casemiro was on the pitch, he was much brilliant. Now, can Lindelof take that responsibility of having to monitor space where you will get players, flair players, creative players, attackers, marking them whilst cutting up passing lanes, and if and when you do end up receiving the ball, having the patience to look up and then find a pass. Passing from centre-back position is a much different ball game because you have it, you have no one behind you, all you have is your goalkeeper. You can either pass it back to them or you clear the ball or you zip the ball someone in midfield who'll take majority of the responsibility. But when you're in a CDM position, a lot of problems can occur from there if you're not aware of where you're passing or what you're doing, because other opposition teams with good press will come and press you. If you end up fumbling, you're putting your centre-back in problem. So yeah, I'm not really comfortable with Lindelof in that position. I would prefer McTominay. Well,
one thing I will say is if Eric Ten Hag is going to trust him, then I think we all should as well. But we'll soon find out. Dennis, member for 20 months. Why doesn't VAR do this for all the holding on corner kicks? That is one thing I have noticed actually, is that it's almost, VAR is almost situational in the sense of where different stuff happens on the pitch. It seems to have different outcomes as to what does happen. McKelvis says, in light of Casemiro's red card, I just want to remind everyone how Andy Carroll ended Eriksen's season and didn't even get a yellow.
That's a great comment, that.
Yeah.
It really is, because I've just said earlier about inconsistency, and that's what drives you absolutely crazy. You know, that has more or less ended Eriksen's season. It didn't even get a yellow card.
Yeah, no.
And we're talking about violent conduct for Casemiro today. You know, that from Andy Carroll was more or less an assault on
We've done it
Eriksen.
3 times, didn't he?
Yeah.
He didn't get booked for the Eriksen one, and then I think he got the bookings for the other 2. But it is crazy how VAR is used and not used.
And they fouled Casemiro a lot today as well.
Yeah. Saurish says, refs need to be protected, but they should be fined. It's just a professional way to handle things. They don't need to have a public interview about it. I'm guessing, do referees get fined? I know they get moved about, don't they? If they have a bad performance and it's clearly a bad performance, they get, you go do League 2 for a couple of weeks.
And that's a crazy thing as well, because if they're on a Premier League game and they get a call wrong, you're right, they call it like they're almost like demoted, but why should that shit referee then be thrown into like a championship game? You know, and then you're a supporter of a championship club and you're like, why have we got this referee here who made a mistake last week? Why should we be penalised, kind of thing? It's crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Scenarios will still be the same in a championship or a League 2 game. And sometimes Championship, League 2, League 1 games, they can be even more rough.
Yeah.
So I don't know why you're sending the referee down there. I actually think the referee should be interviewed. If you have any sort of idea of NBA and NFL, they explain live as well at times in NFL, and it holds referees accountable on the spot as to why they're making the decision. Crowds can be and ahhing, but football needs to move on, and I think this is something that really needs to be introduced.
They're making big decisions. They should be accountable for them decisions. Like I just said before, managers can come out and say that players didn't put a shift in. They can criticise. Players can criticise managers, whatever. Us here, we sit here and discuss things, yet you're not allowed to say anything about a referee.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm glad I'm on here today, and I could call him a knobhead, because that's exactly what I think he is.
Just quickly, I think when Mark was doing the player votes and the man of the match, they've made a little joke and said Andre Mariner has won man of the match today. So, but Ten Hag has actually spoken out a little bit about the referee and VAR.
Go
on. He said, Casemiro crossed the line, you saw that. However, I'm unhappy with the inconsistent refereeing, not only this game, but also in Palace. They elbowed Martinez, and then last week with Eriksen. So he's speaking out, but he's doing it in a professional way, right? He's not going out there and
if I may say, it sounds to me there like he's saying that Casemiro had to go, but he's not the only one who should have gone.
He also goes on and says a lot of other players crossed the line, including some Crystal Palace players. VAR didn't intervene with them. So I think, what he's saying is, if you're going to give Casemiro the red card, then there's a few others that probably have to go as well.
Doesn't sound like an appeal's coming though, does it?
Not by that not by his interview there. But no, I mean, we can talk about refereeing decisions a little bit. We have obviously touched on it. And it's not just this game. We've spoken about, obviously, the Reading game with Andy Carroll. There's been a few games now where, upon retrospect, when we've won, it doesn't mean anything. But, you know, last season, when these things go against you, you know, I think there was 7 minutes added on, but we played 9 to 10, didn't we? There's times where they're taking a throw-in and they're going up an extra, 10 metres to throw the ball. And it's like, you know, in hindsight, it doesn't actually matter now. But you know, they go and score from that. They're not throwing it as far up the pitch, and you know, their different outcome happens. So I think personally, you know, referees do need to be looked at, and you know, there needs to be better action taken in terms of
that decision today. Totally swung the game. Palace were playing well at that stage of the game, but then what a lift for them. You know, you think Casemiro sent off. You know, they had nothing to lose, and let's just go for it. And the whole of the game just swung, you know. I mean, Garnacho coming on, and then, you know, it's unlucky for him, but Erik ten Hag has to make a big decision to then bring him back off. Yeah. You know, the lad, you could tell he was disappointed. You know, he sort of sat on the stairs or whatever watching the game, and you kind of look at him and think, but Erik ten Hag had to make this big decision. The fact he had to bring Harry Maguire and Lindelof on, we spoke off air before saying, you know, where were all these players playing? What was going on? You know, he had like kind of 4 central defenders on there, but he jigged it round and we get the result. That's what Ten Hag was
the main thing.
I want to say as well, forget the refereeing. That is shocking as it is, we know that. But the guy knocked out Bruno Fernandes. and then he let the game go on. And
he actually stopped the game, didn't he?
He did, but after a while...
Players weren't having it though, were they? The players carried on playing.
It's a head injury.
And that's why I said he's a knobhead.
Like, you know you've just hurt my player. Stop the game there and then. You've let like 30, 40 seconds go, let the guy suffer, and then when the whole crowd and the players literally stop, you're like, all right, okay, go on, yeah. Are you all right, mate? Let me help you up. Like, idiot.
Yeah, Troy with the super chat. Anthony is a bench player. Welcome Sabitzer the Pitbull. Ten Hag, quicker subs next time. Our thesis has Man United winning the league. Not panicked at all. And Sourish with the super chat again says, what do we do with Martial, lads? Now, this is my next point. Is Anthony Martial obviously injured again? In all honesty, have absolutely no idea whether this is a new injury, a reoccurring injury. But and I did tweet earlier on, you know, how much, like, I love Martial, I love what he can bring to Manchester United, but there comes a time and a place where you do need to consider, not for necessarily his ability or football reasons. You know, we can't just have an injured Martial. The whole reason Weghorst was brought in was to be this backup to Anthony Martial, and now Martial's not here, and we've just got Weghorst up front, so we needed to then bring another backup in for Weghorst. What do you make of? Well, you said before the show you wanted to have it out with Ricky over Martial.
No, not have it out. It's not having it out. But Ricky, please, as the CEO of Martial FC, I request, can we please let him go?
Can you please let him go?
Can we let him go this summer, please?
Let's do a deal.
Right, we've progress.
Players can't go anywhere now, can they? Till summer.
Summer, yeah.
Let's just wait and hope and see that he does get fit and does start quite a few games or a lot of games between now and the end of the season. And if that's the case...
Are the injuries a worry to you now? Are you
big
kind
worry.
of looking at it now
I
and
agree.
thinking what is going on with this lad?
Massive worry. I can understand the player having, like I think Van der Beek's out for a year nearly, and Eriksen's out for 3 months. And even if you've got the recurrence of say a hamstring injury, which is believe it or not, I had that myself when I was a young man, and it's horrible. Recurrence of a hamstring injury, if it's the same one, I get that. But from what I read and what I hear, it seems to be different injuries, and it's one different thing after another.
I think he's had, I want to say, 4 or 5 different injuries. He's had hamstring, he's had back, he's had, I think, Achilles, ankle, and then there's also times where his kind of injury hasn't even been announced, and it's just
a leg injury I've had once.
Just used as not in squad, so like he's not actually been. So yeah, to have 4 or 5 different injuries. He's actually, that was his 20th match I think he missed so far this season.
Yeah. I want to ask, like, which degree did you do? Because you have a degree in patience. This is...
Look, Faz, at the end of the day, he can't go anywhere, can he? So there's no point saying patient or not patient.
I'm done.
Even if you're completely impatient, you still can't send him anywhere next week. You know,
but summer, can he leave in summer? Can we get rid of him in summer?
I would agree with you. If he doesn't play regularly, whatever this injury is, if he comes back from this injury and plays regularly until the end of the season, he's such a top player, we need to keep him.
So I would agree to wait till the end of the season, but this is not sustainable anymore. Yeah. It reminds me a bit of Owen Hargreaves. I mean, that guy used to get injured in the warm-up every week, and it were always different injuries. A bit Louis Saha as well. I'm just trying to think of two injury-prone players, and because they were that good, you were willing them on. You know, hopefully he can get fit, get a run of games. Martial is getting into absolutely no groove here at all, and pre-season he looked in red-hot form.
When I heard the news today, I was absolutely devastated. I thought he was really nursing him back in. What did he get the other night? 20 minutes or 25 minutes? He looked sharp. He played well. He always plays well in my book. And
scored, didn't he?
Yeah, he scored a goal.
You've been devastated for 8 years now.
Yeah, but
that's it has to come to a point where this has to be looked at and addressed.
He hasn't had serious injury problems on a regular basis. He's had the odd injury over the years, but this last 12 months have been horrendous. Absolutely horrendous.
That's why it reminds me of Owen Hargreaves, because it's not the same injury all the time. It's different niggly injuries, isn't it?
He was fit all the way through the beginning of last season up till Christmas, virtually fit all the time. But Solskjaer didn't use him. Now, maybe Solskjaer knew something I didn't know. Maybe if he would have used him, he'd have broke down. But he kept him on the bench a lot. I think he only made 4 starts in all competition under Solskjaer. Then Rangnick came in. I think the way I saw Rangnick speaking to him, I think Rangnick wanted him to stay, but he'd already agreed to go on loan to Sevilla. I followed his career closely in Sevilla, and he started every single game that he was available for for that second half of the season, although he had 2 injuries. He missed about 3 games, and then he missed about another 3 games. The rest of the time when he was fit, he started.
And what did they say about him as well? Sevilla?
As regards what?
They said that we don't want him, because they had an option to keep him.
Did they have an
option? It wasn't a great loan move.
Yeah, it wasn't. They said, Sevilla came out and said they were not happy.
As I say, I watched it closely. I think the manager would have wanted him to stay. I'll tell you what happened there while he was there. He was on the bench once. He started every game that he was fit for, apart from one. And the one that he wasn't fit for was straight back after an injury, which is dead normal, you know, on the bench and then in. Sure. And he came on in that game. Now then, this is how closely I was watching. They played him either at number 9 or on the wide left. This is how the manager rated him. They had that Ed Nasiri up front as a number 9 as well, who scored a header for Morocco in the World Cup. A really big goal, I can't remember who it was against. So Ed Nasiri sometimes played at 9, and if he played on 9, Martial played on the left. And then if they wanted to bring another winger on, they would take Ed Nasiri off and put Martial at 9 and bring a left winger on. And then if Martial started at 9 and they wanted to bring Ed Nasiri on, they used to put Martial on the wing and take a winger off. He was never the player replaced, never, when they wanted a replacement bringing on. They deemed him too important, just like our manager does. If he was fit, you hear him talk, don't you, about him, like he did against City. He said he was so important that he played. Our manager gets it. Lopetegui gets it. Not too many people do.
The batteries in the remote is dead. Stop slapping the battery, trying to make the battery work. It's dead.
It works for a bit sometimes. You take them out and give them a roll. You get another couple of days
it's a
out
hit and miss. You pick it up, see if the TV turns on.
I think at least one thing we're agreeing on is whether you want him to stay, whether you want him to go, is his ability in a football pitch isn't really.
We're not
like,
questioning that.
Yeah, it is just his availability, his injury record is catching up to him now, and he's not at the minute someone that can be relied upon week on week, even when he's playing 20, 25 minutes, which is a shame. SK says, Pitbulls, Butchers, Tanks and Rolls Royces. We do have a likeable team. Tainted game, but we move. Troy with another super chat said, you might not like this. IMO Ten Hag wouldn't be playing Anthony if he had brought him and we had not overpaid. He has repeatedly killed our attacks. Not good enough.
No, disagree.
Disagree?
Yeah.
I didn't actually have Anthony as someone to speak about today, but I guess we can...
You think Ten Hag plays a player based on the amount of money he paid? if that's the case, why did Casemiro was on the bench when he was brought into the club and McTominay played so many games? You saw the manager say McTominay was doing well, so he continued playing. I don't understand. If that's the case, why is Harry Maguire not starting so many games as well?
He didn't buy him.
I know he didn't, but he's a very big asset for the club. But because to think that you rate your manager based on how much he paid for a player, for him to play that player based on the money, yeah.
I mean, he brought him in, isn't he? So he's going to play him, regardless whether he paid 10 million, 100 million, 200 million.
That's not true. That's not true. He brought Marcia, he's not playing.
Yeah, but there's form that comes into it as well. Who else are you going to play on the right hand side? But
it's not like under Solskjaer where we had this favourites tag, where he had we could see watching from the outside that there was a core of players that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer clearly played but weren't performing. Now, you can say Ten Hag has his favourites at United, but the difference is they're actually doing the business. These are the players that he can count on. Martinez today, unbelievable. Absolutely amazing again, from strength to strength. Varane, you'd count him as another one. Casemiro, apart from the red card, which I don't agree with. He does have these players, but the difference is these players are performing every week. They're not just getting in the team because, I spent such and such a price tag or whatever. It doesn't come down to it. It comes down to football with Ten Hag.
I think occasionally it must come into a manager's mind when it's his signing and he's played, and let's be honest, an astronomical sum. You know, I think it's an astronomical sum for any player, 80, 90, 100 million pound, whatever it is. So when the manager, I assume, has to recommend to the club that I want that player, and the club say he's going to cost this much, and then you say, well, I think he's worth it. I can't imagine what else he says. You know, I think it's worth paying that money. So, you know, he must feel under a little bit of pressure to play him because he's trying to prove himself that he's agreed to pay all this money. You know, it wouldn't look very good. You know, if I was a manager and I bought a player for 90 million quid, it wouldn't look very good on me, I don't think, if I was playing a kid in front of him who's come through the ranks and it cost us anything. It wouldn't look good, would it? So he must be under a little bit of pressure.
Yeah, but Pep Guardiola,
I'm not saying it's the only reason.
Yeah,
maybe he does. But I'm not saying it's the only reason. Pep Guardiola's probably replacing players with players who also cost 60 million quid and what have you. It might be the case, but without any shadow of a doubt, there's no doubt whatsoever that you've got to feel a little bit of pressure when you've agreed that this player is worth X amount of money and it's multi-millions. Because the directors are going to say to you, what have you bought? You know, you told us to pay 90 million quid for him and you got him sat on the bench every week. It's bound to happen, surely.
What do you think? What do you think of his performance today? Nonetheless, do you think he played good?
Yeah, I did. He didn't. At times, he lost the ball when, in my opinion, he shouldn't have. But he didn't stink up the place as well. He had a shot on his right foot that people say he apparently doesn't have. He also took some of the players onto the right at certain times. But overall, look, defensively, he does so much. He understands the system well. The manager has come out publicly and said, we win with him on the pitch. The system works. Everything ticks. We kept saying the system doesn't work because of Ronaldo. Ship him off. It doesn't work. Even though Ronaldo was one of the top scorers of the league, it doesn't work. Well, we shipped him off. Well, the system works with Anthony. If you like it or not, that's a you problem, not a Ten Hag problem. It works, and we've been winning games. We're currently sitting at fourth. What is it? Fourth in the league. Wembley, FA Cup, Europa. I'm happy. People are just going to nitpick because it doesn't suit their vision. It doesn't suit their narrative of how they want the football to be played.
Ashore says, thoughts on Sabitza's tackle on Lokonga. I think that's the one where it actually got given as a foul, but I think he got the ball and tried to pass it through to Rashford, who would have been through on goal. Kev, did you think it was a foul, I guess? I think that's what he's asking.
Do you know, all I can think of is Casemiro's missing 3 games, to be honest. That's all I've got running through my head. I'm not bothered. He didn't get booked. He didn't get sent off. He probably, with that referee today, I'm sure you didn't want to give him any ammunition anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sure if he'd have looked back at it in VAR, you probably would have given him a 10-game ban or something. But
Troy says, we are talking about Martial because he's good. Patience, please. I think we've spoken enough about Martial, to be fair. Where am I?
Patience?
Yeah,
how many years has he
these
been
people have a PhD in patience. That's what they have. I don't. I'm sorry. I have a PhD in winning. That's what we want to do.
Leo says, so if you want Tony to leave, are we going to buy 2 strikers in the summer? Then when we're already a bit short. I mean, there's arguments that even if Martial stays, we need to buy 2 strikers anyway.
Thank you very much.
In my opinion. Troy again, Team Anthony rating so far for me it's a 4, maybe a 5. Oh, so he wants us to rate Anthony's performances so far as a whole. If you were to rate him out of 10
over the season.
Yeah.
Can I go on that?
Go on then. Start us off.
He's growing on me in a big way. He's growing on me in a big way. I've been not his biggest critic, but I've criticised him plenty of times for not trying to get to the dead ball line and cross it with his right, which he still doesn't do. But that's not his forte, if you like. And like Faz said, the manager likes him. The manager says that we play better and we win more games when he plays, which I use that argument about Anthony Martial, so I can't not use it. I can't allow it to not be used for another player. When Martial plays, we play better and we win more games. By my reckoning, Martial started 9 games this season and we've won them all, for example. Now, Anthony, he's got really good close control. He can beat a man easily. He hasn't got, look, nobody's perfect. He hasn't got that electric pace, or he doesn't want to show it to get to the dead ball line, but he also doesn't give the ball away. And I'm often banging on. I bang on regularly about the importance of looking after the ball and passing it and keeping it with the red shirts. And I thought he was having a really good game today, and he's been growing on me bit by bit. And I'm seeing what the manager is talking about, because the team is doing well and the team are, winning most games. And I think he is quite an important part of the team in that he doesn't lose the ball, and the less we give the ball away, the better. And it's a very simple idea in the game that you don't give the ball away. And to me, he keeps it simple enough, but simple enough with a little bit of ingenuity at times as well. He always checks back, but sometimes he checks back and he sees a ball across the face of the box, with somebody just in field. Sometimes it's not on that and he gives it back to the full-back or back to the CDM if it's Casemiro. I just think he's looking after the ball well, he's working hard, and I can see what the manager's talking about.
I think that's a great point, that he doesn't give the ball away, and that gives you half a chance in the final third. I think the price tag, the fact he's Brazilian, people look at this and that they're expecting him to be scoring 3 overhead kicks every game. This is what we've spent this money on. Where's this Brazilian flair and that? But Ten Hag trusts him, and you look at the likes of Rashford and Bruno. They give the ball away more than Antony. From match to match, when you see that they definitely give the ball away a lot more than Anthony. And some people think it's a negative when he cuts back.
I'm still not happy with Marcus Rashford's game in general, despite all the goals that he's scoring. I mean, I'll just mention one thing today, but there's numerous times he lost it, numerous times he tried to take somebody on when he should have passed it and he lost it. But there's one thing they did for me that if I was his manager, it's unforgivable. When we were in you'll all remember it, I'm sure, if you stayed for the last minute. But a minute or 90 seconds to go of the extra time, when we're desperate to keep the ball up that end of the field, he got the ball near the corner flag and ran it goal kick. I don't know what he tried to do, but he ran it out for a goal kick. He ran it out for a goal kick. It's absolutely unforgivable. I know it didn't happen, but on another day, they go up the other end of the field and get an equaliser. And you can hold that ball near that corner flag for 10, 20, 30 seconds. And then if they knock it out and you end up with a throw-in, you could kill a minute. There's only a minute left. So if he came in that dressing room, I'd be fuming and I'd be on his case. What are you doing there in the last minute of the game when we're defending 10 against 11?
Yeah.
Tom Bowler says Erik Ten Hag picks no favourites. Favourites pick Erik Ten Hag, and it's interesting you were speaking about Anthony. I actually think Anthony and Wan-Bissaka have built up quite a nice little rapport between each other, and again, it's one thing I want to talk about and you bang on about the possibility of putting Anthony on the left-hand side, and one thing I noticed in the first half was there was quite a bit of fluidity between Bruno, Rashford and Anthony, in the sense that sometimes Anthony found himself in the 10 with Bruno out left, Rashford over here, and then they swapped for a bit. Anthony was on the left. Nothing really ever kind of came of it, but would you say that's the first time I've noticed something like that happen? Faz, do you think that's something that the manager would have said, we need to see a bit more fluidity from you guys? You don't have to stay in your positions. You can spend 5 minutes, go and, if you're not getting much out of this right back, Marcus go over there and try on the other fullback? Do you think that's something that he's mentioning maybe?
Yeah, I've seen today Anthony dropping in, not dropping, but switch to the left side at one point. He also let Bruno go on the left, and then he came in the 10 position. Clearly, the manager trusts his players, the attacking players, enough for them to be fluid where they're trusted in certain positions. I think Bissaka and Anthony have grown massively compared to the first game Bissaka played with him. You now see if a winger forward like Anthony, right, cuts in on his left, the first thing you do as a defender is make sure he doesn't get a shot, right? So you're blocking that line. But then when you have Bissaka overlapping, who's also been so good on the ball, you saw today he beat a man with a little bit of step over kind of thing. And then on top of that, Bissaka does have a right foot that Anthony doesn't. I'll say it. You open up channels where, yes, there's the overlap. You slot the ball in there. Either Bissaka can cross it in, and it creates that confusion for fullbacks. It creates confusion for defenders. And these things happen over time. They take time to build that trust with your fullback. Your fullback has to know when you want him to overlap. You don't shout, Bissaka overlap now. It's a learning process that takes games and in training sessions. And you're seeing that now. Even the recycling bit, it's so important, giving the ball back to Varane, who carries the ball so well. And what we did in the first half that you saw is the whole of Manchester United squad was in Crystal Palace's half, except for David De Gea. Everybody was so high up. They were choking Crystal Palace. Ball was getting played beautifully, and that's what we want to be seeing. You saw Garnacho, walk through the front line as well when we got Rashford's goal, how they were doing the one-touch passing. That's what Anthony can do. We've seen example before. Anthony, Casemiro to Bruno to Val to Anthony, which should have been a goal a few games ago. This is what I want to continually see. Him cutting in, opening up that channel for Bissaka or Dalot when he comes back. But I'm glad that he's able to, or he has been able to build a relationship with not one, but two fullbacks. What does that tell you? That tells you he's a quality player. He's able to have good relationship with two different fullbacks. So if a game Dalot plays, no problem. If a game Bissaka plays, no problem. I'm really happy with him.
It's about building up them relationships, isn't it? Because that right-hand side has been a problem side, and you've had that many inverted wingers or whoever you've stuck out there, Rashford, Sancho, Anthony, whoever it's been. And then obviously we've had Dalot now that's, fought his way back into the team. But again, now Wan-Bissaka's coming back and showing great form and great promise. So it's about, getting some understanding really on that side of the pitch.
Personally, and this isn't to discredit Wan-Bissaka, I think he's doing for 99% of the minutes he's had, I think he's played really well. But I do think that he will have Anthony will have a better relationship with Dalot just because of Dalot's better ability when it comes to crossing and overlapping and having a little
sense,
that's probably the only reason. I just think that where Anthony does like to cut in, it then opens up the channels. And I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka, not to say he hasn't been doing it, but it is just that consistency in crossing and passing is the only thing. But I just do want to go back because there has been a few more quotes that have come out with regards to what Ten Hag has been saying with regards to the red card and possibly appealing it. And it is the on the thumbnail about the red card. So Ten Hag does say, I saw two teams fighting and two teams crossing the line, but one player got sent off and that's not right. Everyone is reacting, not only Casemiro. One player did even worse than Casemiro, I would say. He then goes on to say, the team stands for each other. They don't accept it when a player from us can be badly injured. And then this is a direct quote when he was actually asked about whether Man United were going to appeal the red card. He said, we have to think about it, but to be fair, when you freeze it, Casemiro is crossing the line. Personally, I don't think it should be judged on a freeze frame, right? Again, it comes down to context. In my opinion, of
exactly anything can be taken out of context. If you see a freeze frame of a picture, you said the same thing to me earlier in the left. Ricky said it doesn't look great, the picture,
I did say that. The thing is, there you've actually got the manager saying that it doesn't look great, so they're not going to go back on that and say. No. Imagine them bringing him into the room and then saying to him, well, you said it didn't look great yourself. You know what I mean? Yeah. I can't say it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, personally, again, whether they actually... I mean, what they don't want to do is appeal and then it get looked at, because there is a possibility of appealing it getting looked at and then there being a further ban in place. You never want that.
If you got one more game, it'd be the League Cup final.
Well, yeah.
Just leave it.
Yeah, just let it rest. But we'll move on to Rashford. We spoke a little bit about him. I have got written down here, almost playing devil's advocate, when I can't remember who it was I actually heard say, but someone when I was sat at the game said, I think personally we should bring Garnacho on for Rashford, but the only thing that I wouldn't do that is because we know Rashford's got a goal and he then goes on and scores. So playing devil's advocate, I'm putting out to you guys. Kev, we'll start with you. Do you think that we just can't afford to take Rashford off at the minute? Because personally, I don't think he actually played that well. He obviously got on the score sheet, which will then bring up the numbers, and everyone will then look at him and he played brilliant. But I don't think he played that good. I thought when Garnacho came on, he did well. He actually created that second goal, didn't he? When he got the ball, it was that almost intricate passing that he played, which then led to Marcus Rashford's goal. Do you think we just can't afford to take him off because he's our only goal-scoring outlet, it seems, at the minute?
He's the only, I'd say the only goal threat at the minute. We've spoken about Martial. Can he get fit? What's going on there? Weghorst, I thought, was all right today. I wouldn't say he was brilliant. Again, what to get from him. Hold up play. He's a physical player. Again, probably not as many balls in the box for him, for the big man. We didn't really play to his strengths, but we've seen that before with previous strikers at United. But Rashford is, I wouldn't say he's irreplaceable at Manchester United at the minute. He's been in great form. He took his goal really well. The second goal today, I'm going to have to do my Borat, but wow. That was amazing, man. One-touch football, that was brilliant to see. And that was when we moved Rashford into the supposed, number 9 position, really. So he's took his goal well, fantastic. But again, I think we've still got options up front, especially out on the wings, of swapping and changing players. Garnacho, he's absolutely chomping at the bit. He'd be devastated to come off today, but Ten Hag's had to make that call.
Definitely be. I mean, Ten Hag will definitely let him know that was obviously a complete. To be fair, I was surprised that Rashford didn't come off in that situation, but he must just have, Rashford's just got that.
He's got quicker, the ability to play him in that number 9. Yeah. And when you put him in that box, the kind of finish today was quite similar to the one against Manchester City, wasn't it? Where he's just in the centre of the goal, ball's put on the plate for him, and he puts the ball in the net.
Currently, go on, Ricky, go on.
Garnacho comes on as a sub against City and more or less puts one on the plate for him. He comes on today and more or less puts one on the plate for him. There's a great chance that whoever was playing at number 9 would have scored those goals. Garnacho is a winger who makes chances. Rashford is a winger who tries to score goals. Garnacho is putting these chances in front of him. The extra bonus with Rashford is a bit more pace, a lot more pace than Weghorst, but with Weghorst, he's better in the air, he holds the ball, so there's different strengths, obviously. But that move today that led to that goal, there's no reason whatsoever, if Weghorst was still on and Garnacho would have replaced Rashford, there's no reason whatsoever why Weghorst wouldn't have scored that goal. We didn't have him at the time. There's no reason why he wouldn't have scored that goal against City. He knows where to be in the box. It's just that Garnacho is a creator of chances who's playing on the wing, and Marcus isn't really a creator of chances. I don't want to go in too heavily on him. He's not playing that badly, but he put some good balls. In the first half today, he put 2 or 3 great balls just behind the defenders. One for Casemiro when he won a corner. One for Fred, I think he won a corner. He tried to drive it straight across the box. So I'm not having to go at him terribly, but he's not somebody who tries, just like Anthony isn't on the other side, and I've said this time and again, he's not somebody who tries to get behind the full-back and whip it across the face of the goal. Garnacho does. So once Garnacho is on the field, all the forwards have got more chance of scoring a goal. Doesn't have to be Marcus.
Because you're going to create chances.
Yeah. Kelly James says on the bright side, Casemiro will get some well-deserved rest. Plus, he has Barcelona to play for match fitness. I mean, you can look at it like that, but I don't think he's going to be happy with the rest. I think he definitely would have been like to have been playing the game.
He strikes me as a player that needs to be playing. He needs to be in his rhythm, the flow of the playing games. That's the kind of worry is that, he's going to miss like 3 games now, and I think he needs. You can't beat match sharpness, can you?
Exactly. Rory C, ability aside, need to cut out sentiment, sell Martial in the summer. What's the point in a player who plays 1 in 5? We've already covered Martial, so we don't need to cover old ground. But as things stand, and this does relate to the point, Newcastle are drawing 1-1 with West Ham, so we have gone up to 3rd initially. But, and this is one thing I want to throw out there, maybe catch a few nibbles in the chat. With that win, with Arsenal obviously dropping some points against Everton, is there a title race back on the cards? Is that something that we need to consider now with...
He's got all best on us,
with the possibility of Man City obviously still having to play Arsenal another 2 times? If we just keep up with what City are doing, and then, you know, Faz, what are you saying?
Arsenal have to play Newcastle.
Yeah,
and they have to play Chelsea.
I mean, we have got to play. We have obviously. We could quite easily still obviously slip up, but you know, I'm just throwing it out there because I'm sure a lot of people in the chat.
We've already slipped on my boat.
All I'm saying is Mudryk and João Felix need to do a job on Arsenal. That's when I'll be. But that's way later on into the season. But there is a race. What race there is, we don't know, but there is a race. We will find out.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
I still fancy Man City to win the league. I think
without Cancelo.
Yeah. Manchester City are capable now of going on a run. They could win the next 10 games in a row. They are capable of that. And once they get in the groove...
We've done it before, so
Arsenal have slipped up today, and every one of us has said, haven't we, at some point, let's wait until they've had a bit of a wobble. You know, I watched that game today. Zinchenko nearly lost the plot. You know, Arteta's on the line. He's not bouncing around like he was. And we'll see, won't we, how they react to this. City are well capable of beating Arsenal home and away. You know, if they take them 6 points, and then I just think they'll go on and win it.
Arsenal do have arthritis. It's just not come through yet. It's just not come through.
I mean, I had Arsenal fans who I'm friends with message me straight away saying Jorginho's crap and all this straight away because he came on and I think they conceded. Whether it was his fault or not, I don't know. But everyone's giving me pelties in the chat. No, title race is not realistic. No, don't say it, Charlie. We're not going for the title. Don't say the T word. It had to be thrown out there, didn't it? You can't. Just even to get some interaction in the chat, it had to be thrown out there.
It's top 4, isn't it? Before this season started. I know expectations changes at Manchester United beating Man City. I think that was the day Beth mentioned the T word, the old title, and we were a bit like.
But T also stands for third. So we're chasing the T. No, which one we'll find out.
I mean, in all honesty, I don't think whether there comes a point where we're actually in a title race, like a proper title race. Leave it to then. I don't think it should be something that we should be considering, in all honesty. Troy says, City will lose tomorrow and lose more games, United winning. Well, I wish I had your outlook, Troy, I'll be honest with you.
Positivity, I like it.
Yeah. A game's catching up with us, though. I thought that's the first game where I've seen that back 4, and it's been slower than usual, in the sense of playing out from the back and not passing through the final third. Whether that was because Palace were doing a better job at shutting us out, I don't know. But do you think tiredness is... I mean, you know, we're playing 3 games a week, and I think in February we're playing 10 games, I'm going to say, in 28 days. You know, it is obscene. It's absurd. Yeah. Kev, do you think that... I mean, I hope that I'm wrong in saying that games are catching up with us, because this month is absolutely manic.
Crazy, isn't it?
We've obviously, you know, we've got, what is it, the FA Cup game against West Ham is something like 2 days after the final or something like that, isn't it? And then we beat them and it keeps on adding, and you know, in Barcelona we beat them and there's another 2 fixtures added in. Do you think there comes a time, or do you think it's now where the tiredness is starting to set in?
I think this is where you have to obviously start rotating slightly, which I think Erik ten Hag is trying to do, but obviously he's got the players that he trusts that are kind of undroppable at the minute, because the players on the bench, I've spoke about squad depth before, I don't think the squad depth is there. And I know you made a comment then about passing out from the back and it was a bit slow. I think one player that clearly we're missing, which I think you were always going to see in these next couple of games now, just what Christian Eriksen brought to Manchester United. You know, sitting in that role, being able to spray passes, breaking up play. And, you know, once you take that out of that midfield area, yes, you still kind of have your Casemiro, but Eriksen brings so much to Manchester United. And it'll be a testing time to try and get through to April now. You know, there's no guarantee that he'll come back before the end of the season. So injuries will take the toll. Of course it will. You could tell that today in the last 10 minutes of that game. But the thing with Manchester United at the minute is we showed that fighting spirit. You know, we really did. Even for the minutes to go up, you know, at Old Trafford, we used to cry out for these. You know, only 7 minutes. We need another 10 to beat these. What are you on about? Today it was like, whoa, 7 minutes, because we're holding on at 2-1, and we were. But we've got streetwise players, the likes of Martinez and that. You know, they know what to do. They know how to see the game out, and that's exactly what.
Bit of credit to David De Gea as well.
Yeah,
made a great save.
Yeah, that was a good.
But unfortunate not being able to save the second one.
Yeah, and he's took a bit of criticism recently, De Gea, which I don't really understand it myself where it's coming from. But he's Dave Save's done it.
There's Adam, who I was sat with, was absolutely giving Dave pelters today. I can't lie. Obviously, he did make a great save from the header. I think there was a few times where, or what Adam was pointing out was that he wasn't coming out and collecting. He was a bit stuck to his line, which a lot of people do say that he does. I think in his road trip as well, before the game, he did actually say he feels more confident with Heaton in goal. And he did actually, in fair play to him, say that...
Who said this?
Adam. He said that doesn't mean that he thinks that Heaton's a better goalkeeper than David De Gea. He said that he can hear Heaton shouting from where he sits in the stand. He never hears De Gea. He just feels that Heaton's a lot more commanding, I guess, and isn't scared to come out and stuff.
De Gea's never really been a commanding keeper, has he? But
yeah, I don't. We haven't got long, so we do want to kind of skim over that. But I mean, there's always De Gea will always divide opinion within the fan base, won't he? Whether he's good or not, but I mean, he's been a great servant for the club nonetheless. Rory says, what is your ideal result for tomorrow? A City win helps secure top 4. A Spurs win might open up that T word. Draw for me, please. I mean, it's kind of irrelevant. Who cares what other teams do at this stage? As long as we keep winning.
That's got to do our own business, take care of our... Yeah.
But I do like to see Man City's downfall.
Oh, yeah. Just like watching Liverpool today, you know.
See you in 30 years.
Yeah, that dominance didn't last long, did it? What was it, a couple of years?
We'll end the show on Man of the Matches. Faz, who'd you give Man of the Match?
I don't want to start.
No. We're starting because I'm sure Ricky's going to have some gem for us at the end.
It's a tough one, because I was going to say Fred was having a really good game until the red card came, and then Fred just looked a bit lost. So for me, it can't be Fred. I think Luke Shaw did well, Bissaka did well, but I think for me it has to be again Lisandro Martinez, because in the crucial moment, first half he was really good, commanding himself, being that assertive centre-back, challenging, but then also his vision to be able to turn and see a pass and not panic and not always go to the goalkeeper like we see with Lindelof and Maguire last season. And on top of the second half, so many challenges, just continuous challenges, being that player, winning headers, making sure nobody gets past him. At certain times we had, for me anyways, I was on the edge of my seat thinking, yeah, this is going to be it. They're going to turn him and they're going to be open on goal. But nope, when Martinez is there, everything is safe. So for me, it's a safe bet, Lisandro Martinez.
Yeah, a lot of people in the chat are agreeing with you, saying Martinez, and I think he actually got man of the match in terms of when people were voting on it in Mark's previous stream as well. Just quickly, Darren says Martinez in for Casemiro and Shaw in as centre back.
I like that. Not a bad idea.
A lot of people saying that. But Kev, man of the match?
Can't disagree with Faz there. Fair play. He said everything that I wanted to say. I think the only thing I'd say is his positional play. He seems to be, one step ahead of everybody else. A bit like Rio Ferdinand was back in the day at Manchester United. He can commit to a challenge, and obviously will get stuck in. But his reading of the game today, I thought, was absolutely
very clever player.
Yeah, never gets on the wrong side of an attacker, whoever he's marking. I just thought he was brilliant today, stepping out, like I say, heroic. I never tire of saying things about this guy, because he was written off after a couple of games at Manchester United.
That's what people in the chat are saying. Remember when everyone said he was too small for the Premier League? And
nobody is mentioning that now. Yeah. Nobody is mentioning it.
And he's built such a rapport with the fans as well, hasn't he? He's obviously got his own songs and chants, and you can see what that relationship means to him and the fans as well. Ricky, you going to make it 3 out of 3?
I was impressed with Martinez. I was impressed with all the back four, to be honest. And between Martinez and Luke Shaw, I think were the pick of the bunch. But I'm going to give it to Luke Shaw. But I don't want to skip over. I've not mentioned him yet. Bruno Fernandes again. It's blown my mind these last 2 games. Beth couldn't believe it the other night when I gave him man of the match. I'm not giving it him today because the defence was so superb. But Bruno again today, lots and lots of simple short passes and keeping the ball moving around. Just for these last 2 games, he's been a different player. So he had a superb game today, Bruno Fernandes. But for me, man of the match should have to go to a defender. There's a hell of a lot of defending to do today, and I'll probably just about give it to Luke Shaw, slightly ahead of Martinez.
It's almost like Bruno's been watching the United stand, you know, and then one night he's heard Ricky going on and it's just clicked in his head and he's gone, if I keep it simple here in the final third, you know, Ricky will be happy, Ricky's off my back, and we're winning games.
Just a quick question before we wrap up. You know, people had a lot of concern about the club overpaying for Lisandro Martinez. Well, if I asked you, as of today, how much would you value Lisandro Martinez at?
Well, yeah, it's a
priceless.
It is.
No, but if you had to put a price,
yeah, it's hindsight, isn't it? That it looks. I mean, you wouldn't. What do you pay for him? 49 million, is it, or something?
Well, euros, 57 million euros.
Yeah, it was a and a lot of people at that time, we could have got him for cheaper, right? But you look at it now and you'd say he's worth every penny, right? Me personally, I would definitely. I mean, I personally would give man of the match to probably Lisandro Martinez as well. I think as well the tiny layoff that he had in between coming back from the World Cup and actually playing again. He's come back like, you know, he's never been away. He's been really, really good. But yeah, that's gonna wrap things up. Another huge, important 3 points. We're not going to discuss the T word any longer. I'm just fishing out for a few nibbles. But appreciate you guys for joining me once again. We will be back for Leeds midweek Wednesday. It's another huge game. Obviously, we just got to keep winning. That's literally it. We don't really need to think about kind of anything else. Keep winning. Keep getting those 3 points. Don't forget to like, subscribe on your way out, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.